Hi, CIS136. Let's go over what we're going to do this week. But first, I want to give you a word that's kind of stuck in my head in the last few days. And the word is resilience. So, what is that? What is resilience? Like, I was thinking about it a lot, and I actually threw it out there and asked some friends what they thought it meant. And mostly what came back was the ability to continue even when things are hard, or even when things don't go the way you think they ought to go, or even when they're not what you expected. It's like that ability to push through some challenges, resilience. And the interesting thing about it is once you're in a situation where you have to display resilience and you have to get through something, what's on the other side is pretty amazing, because what's on the other side is confidence and experience and the knowledge that you gain from whatever it was that you just went through. So the reason that word was sticking in my head this week was because so many of you have experienced or exhibited great resilience. Like, I know that I've thrown a bunch of new stuff in front of you, and I appreciate the questions, the comments, the interactions, the conversations we've had in Zoom with several people. Um, just sticking to it and saying, like, I'm not familiar with this, but there must be a reason and it's interesting. And at least I can learn something. So kudos for resilience. And I appreciate those of you that are just digging in. Keep in mind, I'm always available to help. You're not in this on your own. So if you get stuck on something, just throw me out a message and say, I need help with this. And I'm more than happy through whatever channel you're most comfortable in to facilitate that. So let's jump into what we're doing this week. So we have two projects this week, or two focuses this week. We have the Wikipedia focus, which I'll get to in a minute, and then we'll have the kind of nuts and bolts. What is the internet? I mean, it's something we use all the time. We're using it right now. You're watching this on the internet. So what is that? And where did it come from? And, how does it get used? That's kind of the purpose of the whole class, right? So we're going to start off this week looking at some early videos of the internet, but we'll get there. Let me do a screen share, pull up the windows that I want you to see, and jump to Discord. Let me jump over. We'll look at Moodle first. So when you first get into Moodle, I always post an announcement up at the top. And one of the things that you may have noticed is this WikiStats right here. And this is live updates. So right now we have a bunch of zeros on there because we haven't really done anything yet. Although there's some total edits, and I have a feeling that has to do with the tutorials. So these numbers will change as we go through the semester. But let's jump to what is this internet thing anyhow, and take a look at what we have going on here. So up at the top, you've got the week 2 checklist, which I'll show you in just a second. And that's a super useful tool. You'll also have a block for this video, but I'm making this video, so it's not there yet, but it will be there. And then you have this little video called I'm Worried About My Grade. This video has been around for a long time, and it's super funny unless it's not. And so every semester, unfortunately, I have like one student that's like the student in this video. So I challenge you to watch it. It's only a few minutes long, and see if you can identify how not to be that student. Anyhow, like I said, I'm worried about my grade. So the week 2 checklist is a really good tool that will help you stay on track, because if you make your own copy of it in your own Google Drive, you can actually change the settings, not started, in progress, completed, and you can make notes on it if you want. So that's a useful tool. I always encourage, some people like using it and some people don't. It's up to you. But you should at least look it over, because it gives context for how all these blocks on the page are connected. Now, let's scroll down a little bit. In the Think section, so these are some videos that give you some perspective on what the internet can do. And I should have organized this a little differently, actually, because the first one and the third one are similar, and the middle one is actually a bit of a different thing. So let's address those first and third one first. The attention economy, that's a video that talks about like what happens, everything you click and all these notifications and what that does to you, the way that you think. And if you know anything about an economy, like that's kind of a weird phrase, right? The attention economy. So if you know anything about an economy, you know that things that are valuable are things that are scarce. That's why you pay more money for things like fine gems, like diamonds and things like that, because they're not as available. So people are willing to pay more. So in the attention economy, what is scarce and valuable is your attention. So this video talks about this and makes you think a little bit about all those dings and pings and clicks and pop-ups and all of that. Now, going along with that, the 5 ways to organize your phone to unhijack your mind. That just gives some practical tips. Like here's a few things you can do if you want to kind of back off all of the notifications and things that pop up. So that's more of a useful thing. And then if the internet went down for a day, what's the worst thing could happen? Like if it just went down, you just go out and go for a walk or something, right? That's all it takes. But this will kind of give you an idea of what kinds of things are connected to the internet. Now, down in the Learn section, there's a set of videos here. The first set, what's this internet thing and where did it come from? If you click into that, it's 1995 Bill Gates talking about the internet, and Tim Berners-Lee, he's the guy that invented the internet, so he talks about it 30 years later. And then if the internet became a country, because it is pretty big, what would it look like? Let's find out. The internet versus the World Wide Web. Now, we're going to use in this class several crash course videos because they're interesting, they're not very long, and they do a really good job of describing things. So we've got one on the internet, and we've got one on the World Wide Web. They're kind of the same thing, are they? Watch those videos and you'll know the answer to that question. If they're the same thing, and if they're not, how are they different? Each video is about 11 or 12 minutes long, and they're very entertaining. So this last one I put in here just for fun. You don't have to watch this, but I came across this because it's long. You don't have to watch it, but this was made the first year I started teaching the Intro to Internet class, which was in 1997. So if you do watch it, think through, like, this is how it was in 1997. How different is it today? And what has changed in that time period? If you have an answer to that question, send me an answer on your Discord notes channel, and I'd be willing to give a little bit of extra credit for a really good answer. Now, down here at the bottom, we've got our assignments for the week. So we've got the WikiEDU Evaluate Wikipedia assignment, and then we've got a week 2 reflection. So let's take those one at a time. I used the link up here. Let me jump up here to go to our dashboard. So I already have that open. Now you might have noticed, if you're in here already, that the home page already cycled over to week 2 on Sunday. It automatically does that. So on Sunday, the new week opens up. Don't worry about that though. Let me come back down here. You can always use the timeline to go back to week 1 or to go ahead if you have some extra time. You can do those trainings, like you can just knock them all out if you've got some time. The other useful page is the resources page, because the resources page actually puts in a nice concise list, more or less, without a lot of the context. And it just links to all the trainings, all the exercises and everything in one page. So let's look at this. What do we have going on this week? Evaluate Wikipedia. So hopefully you did the stuff from last week, because in this assignment, everything builds onto each other. And so this week, it's going to look at evaluating articles and sources, because they have a pretty high bar for what gets into Wikipedia. So how do you know? So that little training will help you figure that out. And it's only, both of these, I think, are 10 to 20 minutes long. And then the second one is just how to use the editor, Wiki Code versus Visual Editor. So the trainings are there. The exercise, it's going to take you through a practice evaluation of a Wikipedia article. And they were good enough to list several biographies here. They're all tech people. And take a look at them, because this sounds like a huge challenge to write a biography on somebody. Like in my mind, initially, I was thinking we're going to have to like figure out 15 pages of stuff. It's going to take forever. But when I look at these biographies, a few of them only have a couple of paragraphs. Our job is not to write everything there is to know about that person. Our job is to create an initial page with some good information that brings this person, that represents this person on the internet so that they have representation, but that is also a building block for other people who might want to contribute. So when you look at it that way, it's not as hard of a project as it sounded like. Anyhow, you pick one of these, like look through all of them, see who sounds interesting, take a quick glance at them, and then use that for your Evaluate Wikipedia exercise. There is a section on here on discussion, but we're not going to do that this week. So I left it here though, because it does have some good things, some good questions. Like read the questions and just think about how you might answer them, because they're very useful in terms of how do we find information, how do we use information, how do we give credit to the information that we found. And we'll loop back to those later. And then finally, this is probably one of the more important parts of the week. In our guide slides, which I have linked here, which are also linked in Moodle, in our guide slides, we're going to have, there's 12 people. If you've already looked at them last week, there's 12 people. We're tasked with writing biographies for those people. So I want to know who you want to work on. So take some time this week, early in the week, go through the slides, look at the links. Those links were provided by Wiki Education. Look at the links, and then rank your people in order of, first, second, third of your preferences. Let me open up the form. It's a pretty simple, pretty basic thing. You're just going to tell me who your first choice is and why. Second choice, third choice. That's all there is. Now, I will tell you that I'm going to look heavily at the rationale. So if you decide that you want to, pick somebody, then you need to tell me why. Like, are they relevant to you in some way? Can you relate to their life experience? Are you interested in what they're researching? Like, why do you connect to that person? And what I'll do is organize all of that based on who wants different people the most. So it's going to be a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle for me to put together to make the teams, because I want the teams to be between 3 and 5 people. And so we'll kind of see how that works out. Anyhow, get that submitted by Friday. That's the big deadline. Get it submitted by Friday. The final thing you have this week, let me go back down here. Down, is week 2 reflection. So last week I had you do something like this out of the Wiki assignment. This on Discord. This week I'm going to have you do it in a Google form. But it's the same question. Same idea. So at the end of the week, once you're done with all the Wikipedia stuff, what you're going to do is come down here, 1 word, 1 sentence, 1 question. Please use full sentences, complete sentences. That's always nice to read. And you can use more than 1 if you want. But I'm just trying to get an idea of where you're at with the project. And so you might wonder, like, why reflect anyhow? Like, what's the big deal? Why reflection? And honestly, it's a really good way, backed by lots of research, to deepen your understanding, to broaden your knowledge base, and to have you take the time and say, what was that all about? What does that mean to me? what is that? What am I going to do with this? So I'm probably going to ask you this on a regular basis, actually. This will probably be a weekly assignment to come finish this out. And if you're interested and if you're curious, there's actually a link here. Wikipedia, of course, has a whole page on reflection if you're curious about the research. Now, it's a page that has links to all the multiple meanings of reflection. In my mind, reflection is kind of like, if you think about looking in a mirror, it's sort of like looking back at yourself, right? You get to look back and see what's there. That's sort of the context we'll use it in. So if you go to that page, to that wiki page, go down to the part where it says self-reflection, something about self-reflection and education. And that will take you to a page that tells you about all the research. So I'm going to show you one more thing because it's something that came up that some people were a little worried about or curious about. You might notice on all of these, it's got a progress, like a little progress thing in the corner, 0 out of 10, 0 out of 34. What the heck does that mean? Well, there are buttons, I guess you could call them, where you can check these off. Now, you need to know, I have nothing to do with this. I don't see this. It's not for my benefit. Strictly for you if you choose to use it. It doesn't indicate that anything's graded. It doesn't indicate that anything is submitted. What it indicates is you get to look at this and say, oh, okay, I already read that resource. I'm done with it. Or, I already submitted that assignment. I'm done with it. 100% for your use only. So just make sure you understand that. Some people panic a little bit about that, but it doesn't have anything to do with me. So that's where we're at in week 2. This is a very interesting week because we start diving into these biographies of these interesting people. All of them have stuff have to do with technology in some manner, and quite a few of them actually are engaged in activities that have to do with the internet directly, social media, networking. There's quite a few people that are doing different things. So you're not required to pick any that have to do with this class. You can pick whoever you want, but I'm letting you know that there's some that are relevant there. So this is a really good week. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You know where to find me, and I love talking to people. So have a good week. Let's see what we do.